Hello everyone and welcome to Melyn Talk Support Matchups. Today I'm going to be talking about Blitzcrank, alright? So now Blitzcrank is a really interesting lane for Zyra because it's a very feast or famine lane. It's not really, it's very unlikely that it's going to be a farm lane. It's very unlikely that it's going to go even. Usually either the Zyra is going to be feeding or the Blitzcrank lane is going to be feeding. There's going to be feeding somewhere, okay? So here in this video I'm going to kind of talk about how you can make sure that it is him, not you, that is feeding, alright? So how we're going to do this is I'm going to be doing a little laning guide, talking about levels 1, 2, and 3, and then some general things to be aware of when talking about Blitzcrank. So for the laning guide, we're going to start with our level 1, and this is the most important level in a Blitzcrank lane, okay? Because he is melee, and he's not that strong yet. Now, don't get me wrong. If you get hooked, you're going to take a big chunk of damage, but you're probably not going to die. Unless maybe you get hooked into like a Caitlyn trap or something else is kind of going on, all right? So it's very important to start the level 1 strong by auto attacking, and you can just stay behind minions. Either auto attack the AD carry when they're going for a last hit, or auto attack the Blitzcrank if he's ever in range. You should be definitely abusing your auto attacks. Go in and out of brushes to be getting your Greenfather's proc and stuff like that. And you should be able to get a health advantage because Blitzcrank's level 1 is pretty weak unless he can land a hook on you. And then it'll be a chunk, but again, you don't have a very high chance of dying. Also, on level 1, probably one of the more important things that I actually forgot is watch for an invade. Blitzcranks love to invade. It's like 90% of the games I see a Blitzcrank, they always invade, so watch an entrance. Don't stand next to a wall that you can get hooked over, stuff like that, because it's just a really kind of sad way to lose an early advantage. Okay, other things, so auto spam, Q spam, get a health advantage, stay behind the minions. This is basic stuff for any melee support that you're against. And then the last question that I ask myself, and you should ask yourself as well, specifically for a Blitzcrank lane, is do you want to start Q or E? Now, normally Q start is a lot better. It's more reliable harass. It's going to give you, it's easier to land. It has a lower cooldown. And in general, it's just a better tool for level 1 because it's usually better level 2 as well. All right. And I actually think even in this matchup, Q is stronger level 1. But if you start E level 1 and you don't get punished too much, which you shouldn't, then you have the ability to go W level 2 and have your EW combo available to you at level 2, which is your most vulnerable and probably Blitzcrank's strongest point. Blitzcrank's stronger at level 3, but we're much stronger at level 3. So I think you're most vulnerable at level 2. So you have to ask yourself, okay, do I want a stronger level 1 with a Q start, or do I want a stronger level 2 with an E start? And you can kind of do both, and I have done both in my experience. I think usually I prefer the stronger level 1, but it kind of depends on how I think the lane's going to go. Because having only QW and not having an E available level 2 can be very, very tough if you don't already have a health advantage. So if you trust in yourself to get a health advantage with Q level 1, start Q. If you don't trust yourself to get a significant advantage level 1, then you should start E so you actually can survive level 2. Which is a good transition into the actual level 2 discussion, where you're going to have QW or EW. And the most important thing once you hit level 2 is to be aware of how many seeds you have and not waste them. It's very tempting to immediately QW or EW them when you hit level 2, but then you have 20 seconds where you have no reliable seeds in your available to you, okay? So I would highly recommend, especially in a Blitzcrank lane, to hold on to that seed for a little bit. And you can use it if he starts being aggressive. Usually they'll go at level 2 or level 3, but I honestly believe level 2 is when you're most vulnerable in the Zyra versus Blitzcrank lane. Okay? If you can survive until when you have all 3 of your spells, you're probably going to win this lane entirely. Okay? So let's see. Let's say if you started Q, then you have QW right now, and then you're going to just keep poking him with Q. It's a pretty low cooldown, so even if he like runs through your Q and comes at you, you'll be behind minions, so you'll be okay. But if he really tries to force it, you'll have another Q up fairly shortly that you can use to spawn a seed and trade back, whether on him if he's low or on the AD carry if the AD carry is trying to follow up. All right, and then EW is the same kind of thing. Keep harassing with auto attacks, and if he comes at you, you can EW him, and then he can't hook you through the seed, and so it can be a great way to deter his aggression. Level 2 is also where your choice of summoner spell actually becomes really impactful, because you can run Ignite or Exhaust in a Blitzcrank lane. They're both very, very solid, kind of depending on the overall team comp and also depending on the enemy AD carry and your goals with your AD carry. There's a different video I have where I talk more about summoner spells. But the idea for this is Exhaust can be a great summoner spell against a Blitzcrank, because if he hooks you and the AD carry is in range to get exhausted, which won't happen if you're against like a Caitlyn or something, then you can actually turn hooks into a good thing for you, because you can't be bursted through exhaust most of the time. So a lot of times exhaust can be good because you can get hooked and the enemy AD carry will dash in and commit, and you can usually just blow them up through the exhaust or get some summoner spells. Or similarly, Ignite can be okay if you think you can survive, have an early flash ready, and then you can maybe turn it with an Ignite. That's mostly it for level 2. Level 3 is where things get a lot better for you. Blitzcrank is very strong at level 3, but so are you, okay? So at this point, you should always be saving 1 or 2 seeds, and you should always be saving your E unless the enemy, unless the Blitzcrank starts coming up at you. So in a typical level 3 situation, you're going to have 2 seeds, you're going to have your Q and your E available, so you're, okay, I'm going to go QW auto, either the AD carry or the Blitzcrank, whichever is more accessible. And then they either have to take it, because Blitzcrank can't do anything unless he hooks you, or Blitzcrank has to come for a hook, in which case you can use your EW to make sure you're protected. So talking a little bit about the EW combo to block the hook, it's very, very unlikely that you have the reaction time and the ping to actually EW after he hooks. Usually what's more common and what's more often done, and what I myself do, because I don't trust myself, is to use an EW as to dissuade him. For example, if the Blitzcrank comes up, EW him, and the E maybe like midway between you and him, and then he's going to get hit by the E, and you can use the plant as a new minion to hide behind, and you keep fighting, keeping that plant between you. He can't run through the plant, he'll take a ton of damage, and he can't really go around the plant because you can also go around accordingly. All right, so that's kind of how you use your plants, and specifically your EW combo, to keep yourself safe. Also, by level 3, you should have gotten enough Q poke and auto attack poke on the Blitzcrank to get the lane in your favor, which is again another staple of a melee matchup, where you consistently abuse your range advantage to get them low enough where they can't engage without dying. All right. So if you do everything right, level 3 should be a safe time for you. The only real thing you have to worry about is if you're getting ganked. Blitzcrank can flash you, and he can flash over your root, he can flash around your root, he can flash through minions. So that's kind of what you have to watch out for level 3. And usually, unless you are behind, this only works if you're getting ganked by the enemy jungler, but that can happen very often. So be aware of that. All right. And that's kind of the laning guide for playing against the Blitzcrank. Some other things to be aware of when playing against Blitzcrank, and this section is probably more important in this case, is some things to be aware of. All right. So primarily the most important thing that a lot of people don't think this is their responsibility, but I think it is. The most important thing you have to be aware of is that he will roam, okay? This is a bad thing for a variety of reasons, but, most notably, it's going to get other lanes behind. And you could say, oh, they should have noticed my missing pings. They should have paid attention to the map. But I think it's your responsibility to, every time the Blitzcrank disappears, every time the Blitzcrank even backs, communicate with your team. And this is not just one MIA ping. You can ping it a couple times until he comes back, or even better often is to type in chat and say, hey, Blitzcrank is recalling. He will likely roam afterwards, something like that. So they at least are aware. And sometimes you can punish the AD carry for this, but sometimes you can't. So the best thing you can do is be very polite and be very clear to your team what you think the Blitzcrank can do. And he might not roam, but you at least provided your teammates with this knowledge. Okay. You can't. I don't really think it's worthwhile to try to counter his roams with roams of your own. Zyra's roams are pretty bad in general. She's immobile, she's squishy, and her CC is not really reliable. I think the best thing to do is stay bottom and get that turret down. But you can use your own judgment. Another thing to be aware of, and this is more so in lane against the Blitzcrank, is to be aware of how deceptively tanky he is with his passive, his mana barrier, okay? Which gives him a shield when he's low health, depending on how much mana he has. And it's very, very important when you're trying to burst him, especially in like a tower diver gank situation, to be aware, okay, this guy is tankier than I think. This can also kind of go into the whole like wasting your spells, wasting your ultimate, stuff like that. Usually it's better to harass or burst the AD carry, but sometimes you have to do the blitz. Just know that he's going to have that shield. And the third thing I want to talk about for things to play against Blitzcrank is consider buying Frost Queen's Claim. I don't usually recommend Frost Queen's Claim, although it's solid. I kind of recommend it. I don't do it myself very often. But Frost Queen's Claim is great because against the Blitzcrank, warding is very, very dangerous. This is not just laning phase. This is all phases of the game. Because say you're warding Baron Pit, he can just hook you over to the wall and you're going to instantly die, basically. So it's very important that you have to know where the Blitzcrank is. And in general, you kind of want to know where the entire team is when you're warding. Don't ever walk into a completely dark jungle and try to ward when you don't know where the enemy team is, stuff like that. All right. So Frost Queen's Claim with a Ruby Sightstone, you don't have to get the Ruby Sightstone early, but eventually get it, is a very solid idea when you're against the Blitzcrank, because it can make warding a lot more safe. The final kind of little thing I want to talk about in this video is, remember, Blitzcrank is kind of a one-trick champion. All he can do is hook you. If he can't hook you, he's useless. This goes for all stages of the game. If you can stay behind minions, if you can be safe, and if you can make your AD carry safe as well, you can't just ditch them while they're farming. That doesn't count. You can't blame them. If you can deny him that, he is useless. All right. So this especially influences when he tries to hook you and misses, because that means for the next, I don't know, 15 or so seconds, I don't remember the cooldown off the top of my head, but that means for the next few seconds, he is absolutely worthless, and you should take complete control of the lane for those seconds until his hook is back up. Okay, so very, very, very much you need to focus on punishing him if he ever misses that hook. All right. And that's pretty much it. Few closing remarks. I am now actually doing these Melyn Talks videos and exporting them in audio versions as a podcast. So you can check that out if you want to listen to it on the go or don't want to actually watch it on YouTube. As always, feel free to leave any comments on my Twitter or on the video description below or on my Discord. I always appreciate feedback as well. If there's a champion you want to see, go ahead and request it as well. Finally, you can find me with the information below the video. Thank you guys for watching, and may your enemies feel the thorns embrace.